just 2 minutes.
Citizens of Israel, we are at war, not in an operation or in rounds, but at war. This morning, Hamas launched a murderous surprise attack against the state of Israel and its citizens. We have been in this since the early morning hours. I convened the heads of security establishment and ordered, first of all, to clear out the communities that have been infiltrated by terrorists. This currently is being carried out. At the same time, I have ordered an extensive mobilization of reserves and that we return fire of a magnitude that the enemy has not known. The enemy will pay an unprecedented price. In the meantime, I call on the citizens of Israel to strictly adhere to the directives of the IDF and Home Front Command. We are at war, and we will win it.
You know his name. He's a pioneer in the fashion industry, creator of a $6 billion global
That we want to bring you. Our next conversation comes to us between Live Now's Andrew Kraft and Representative Lauren Matsumoto out of Hawaii, hearing from lawmakers on the impact so far.
Right now, I want to bring in Hawaii State Representative Lauren Matsumoto.
Thank you so much for having me.
So as we are about 2 months since all of this did unfold, what goes through your mind as you think back to those moments here as all of this was happening?
I mean, I think I've said this many times, there really just wasn't words to describe. And we're such a close, tight-knit community here in Hawaii. Everybody knows everybody. So no matter where you live in the state, you know somebody who was affected in Lahaina. You know, my good friend lost 3 homes. It was the grandparents' home, the parents' home, and their home. And just the devastation is just horrible. You can't even describe what people are going through. And so 2 months out, we're getting better, but it's still absolute chaos. You know, people are displaced. They're currently in hotels, but October 1st and October 8th are these deadlines for reopening. And there's still not a full plan as to where people are going to go. And so I think the biggest thing for me is trying to get the message out that we had a huge
Good morning to you all. Thank you so much for waking up with me here on Live Now from Fox. I'm Jeanne Francine. It is Saturday, October 7th, 1 minute after the top of the hour, 8:01 on the East Coast, 5:01 on the West Coast. We do have some breaking news shots coming through our studios right now. This one out there in Israel is one that we're following live, raw, and unfiltered. Reports from the Associated Press say it's live from Beit El near the northern port to the West Bank city of Ramallah. All of this amid reports of clashes there between Palestinians and the Israeli army. It comes after the militant harness rulers of the Gaza Strip carried out an unprecedented and multi-front attack on Israel. They fired thousands of rockets as dozens of Hamas fighters infiltrated the heavily fortified border in several locations. It caught Israel off guard on a major holiday. Hours after the invasion began at daybreak this morning, Hamas militants are still fighting gun battles inside several Israeli communities. Israel says more than 20 people have been killed and hundreds wounded. You're watching this live, raw, and unfiltered on your screen. You can see the smoke. You can see the fires. They set several tires on fires. You see them with the face gear on and the headbands out there. Unfortunate news as we wake up on a Saturday morning on October 7th. 20 people killed amid these unprecedented attacks in Israel. I'm going to sit on this shot for a second so you can look at everything as it unfolds.
Good TikTok. Got the sound now.
Bombings and becoming closer by the minute and getting closer to where I basically live with my family. You asked me about the infrastructure. It's being deteriorated by the moment.
We've seen in the last few minutes several huge airstrikes. That looks to be taken from one of the rooftop cameras in the center of Gaza City.
What we just saw, that's an 11-story building, you're right, in downtown, and that's actually the home of Hamas Radio.
No comparison done.
Right. So it's not far at all from where the BBC office is based. A lot of journalists are based around there, and also a lot of people living around there. And the truth is, Gaza is a very, very small place. Gaza City itself, very, very densely populated, and there isn't really anywhere safe, I don't think.
Bombings and becoming closer by the minute.
تم خطف جميع من كان داخل هذه الدبابة. جميع من داخل هذه الدبابة تم خطفهم قبل قليل من قبل عناصر كتائب القسام في هذا المكان كما شاهدنا بالعين المجردة.
We will win this one.
So this.
A deeply disturbing video surfaced online today, showing a harrowing incident where an Israeli woman is taken hostage by Palestinian men. The footage, which has shocked viewers around the world, depicts the woman in a terrifying situation. This is not an isolated event, as horrors such as these are occurring throughout the current conflict caused by the surprise attack by Palestine this Saturday. Follow for more. A deeply disturbing video surfaced.
Oh.
Welcome to the fucking news. I'm your host, Kellerman, and here's the shit going on in the world today. All out war has broken out in Israel. Early this morning, Palestine launched thousands of missiles into populated Israeli cities and have started infiltrating by land, sea, and air. I sincerely hope I'm not the first person you're hearing this from, but still follow me if you give a shit. Welcome to the fucking news. I'm your host, Kellerman, and here's the shit going on in the world today. All-out war has broken out in Israel. Early this morning, Palestine launched thousands of missiles into populated Israeli cities and have started infiltrating by land, sea, and air. I sincerely hope I'm not the first person.
אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה, לא במבצע, לא בסבבים, במלחמה. הבוקר חמאס פתח במתקפת פתע רצחנית נגד מדינת ישראל ונגד אזרחיה. אנחנו בתוך זה משעות הבוקר המוקדמות. כינסתי את ראשי מערכת הביטחון, הנחיתי קודם כל לטהר את היישובים מהמחבלים שחדרו פנימה, הפעולה הזאת מתבצעת בשעות הללו. במקביל הוריתי לבצע גיוס מילואים נרחב, ולהשיב מלחמה שערה בעוצמה ובהיקף שהאויב לא הכיר. האויב ישלם מחיר שהוא לא ידע מותו. אני קורא בינתיים לכל אזרחי ישראל להישמע בקפדנות להנחיות הצבא, להנחיות פיקוד העורף. אנחנו במלחמה ואנחנו ננצח בה. אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו
יואו, חמאסניקים! חמאסניקים!
אמא! ממי!
הנה, Yo, חמאסניקים! חמאסניקים!
אמא! ממי.
No, the world's seen appalling images. Thousands of rockets in the space of hours raining down on Israeli cities. I got up this morning and started this at 7:30, 8 o'clock, my calls. Hamas terrorists crossing in Israel, killing not only Israeli soldiers, but Israeli civilians in the street, in their homes. Innocent people murdered, wounded, entire families taken hostage by Hamas. Just days after Israel marked the holiest of days in the Jewish calendar. It's unconscionable. You know, when I spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu this morning, I told him the United States stands with the people of Israel in the face of these terrorist assaults. Israel has the right to defend itself and its people. Full stop. There's never justification for terrorist attacks. And my administration's support for Israel's security is rock solid and unwavering. Let me say this as clearly as I can. This is not a moment for any party hostile to Israel to exploit these attacks to seek advantage. The world is watching. You know, the world's seen a
Breaking news! Israel has retaliated to the declaration of war by Hamas by firing its own set of rockets towards Gaza, leaving thousands more casualties. The surprise attack by Hamas started earlier in the day, with reports of paratroopers gliding over the Israeli border and taking prisoners back into Gaza. Hundreds of Israelis were kidnapped at the outdoor festival. The deputy head of Hamas's political bureau, Saleh al-Aruri, has claimed senior officers from Israel's army have been captured. The commander stated the Palestinian militant group had decided to say enough is enough. The United States has stated it will work to ensure Israel has what it needs to defend itself. The Israeli military has confirmed that Hamas militants are holding Israeli civilians and soldiers hostage in Gaza. The military did not say how many hostages were seized, but their capture marks a major escalation in the fighting. Both sides of the conflict have reported hundreds of casualties. As always, we will continue to keep you updated on the situation.
Ismail Haniyeh has issued a video statement. That's Hamas's political leader, and he says Hamas's military operation will continue beyond Gaza.
Al-Aqsa Typhoon started from Gaza, and it will stretch to reach West Bank, 1948 territories, and our people across our territories. This is the battle of not only the Palestinians or the Gazans, it is the battle of all the Arab and Muslim nations, simply for the reason that it is the battle for Palestine. It is a battle for Jerusalem. It is a battle for Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Ismail Haniyeh has issued a
There is just nonstop rocket fire from Gaza into southern Israel. There is active fighting going on along the border. Wounded troops being brought to this position where ambulances can take them to local hospitals. Civilians using their cars to bring people here. This is very much an active situation, as border police believe up to 60 Palestinian militants could still be inside Israel. There is just
Breaking news this morning, y'all. Israel is officially declaring war after a surprise attack this morning, October 7, 2023, from Hamas using 5,000 missiles. They unalived 40 Israeli civilians and counting, and there's many more that have been injured. And now they're saying that they're infiltrating on foot Israel at war with Hamas after attack. At least 40 Israelis unalived and dozens taken hostage near border. Multiple unalivings in Gaza. Hamas fighters have crossed the border into Israel after an early morning barrage of rockets from the Gaza Strip. Israel has caught up reservists and striking targets in Gaza. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says, "We are at war."
We are at war. Not an operation, not rounds, but at war. This morning, Hamas opened a murderous surprise attack against the state of Israel and its citizens. We're in it since early morning. I convened heads of security. I instructed first to clear the villages from terrorists that infiltrated. This is taking place now. In addition, I ordered a wide call for reservists to fight back with might and scope that the enemy did not know. The enemy will pay a price he did not know until now. In the meantime, I call on all citizens of Israel to strictly obey the instructions of the army and the instructions of the Home Command. We are in a war and we will win it.
Breaking news this morning, y'all. Israel is officially declaring war after a surprise attack this morning.
Hamas has launched a surprise attack within Israel's borders overnight. First, launching rockets from the Gaza Strip, then sending militants into the streets of the southern part of Israel.
Israelis woke up today to find their worst nightmares had come true in the form of a massive surprise attack by Palestinian militants from Gaza. As we speak, Palestinian gunmen are inside Israeli cities and towns, something we have never before seen on this scale, and they are fighting running gun battles against Israeli ground forces. Hamas, the major Palestinian militant group that controls Gaza, says they have taken Israelis hostage and they have taken them back.
Hamas has launched a surprise attack.
Palestinian gunmen are inside Israeli cities and towns, something we have never before seen on this scale, and they are fighting running gun battles against Israeli ground forces. Hamas, the major Palestinian militant group that controls Gaza, says they have taken Israelis hostage and they have taken them back inside of Gaza. Now, the Israeli military says this infiltration came by land, by sea, and by air in the form of Hamas gunmen on paragliders infiltrating into Israeli territory. And this was done under the cover of a barrage of more than 2,000 rockets fired in the early hours of this Shabbat morning.
Hamas has launched a surprise attack within Israel's borders overnight. First,
unprecedented surprise attack. Israel essentially now saying that they are in a state of war, the likes of which Israel has not seen in 50 years, almost to the day to that Yom Kippur War in 1973, which also caught Israel by surprise on a holiday. Today is a holiday technically at Simchat Torah, also catching Israelis by surprise. 6:30 a.m. is when this started, a barrage of rockets coming from Gaza towards Israel, and it has not stopped since that hour. We have seen now thousands of rockets fired, including as far as where we are in Jerusalem. We've had at least 5 air raid sirens sending us into the shelters. We've heard multiple explosions in the air over Jerusalem. The same has been said for Tel Aviv as well as southern Israel. But even more alarming are these ground infiltrations. The Israeli military has confirmed that dozens, if not more, militants have infiltrated Israel from Gaza. We've seen videos of them on the backs of pickup trucks on the streets of Israeli villages, and as well as we know from the Israeli military that they are currently actively engaging in firefights with militants on the streets of several villages, as well as 2 army bases, as well as the border crossings. We have heard harrowing tales from Israeli civilians who are hiding in their safe rooms, in their bomb shelters, in their houses. They say that militants are firing just outside their door, trying to enter their homes. We do have reports of captured and or killed Israeli soldiers and civilians. We do not have that confirmed yet from the Israeli military, but we have seen videos that Reuters has published of what appears to be at least 1 tank and an Israeli soldier being taken out of that tank by Palestinian militants. And in addition, we have seen videos, and our own team in Gaza has seen Israeli military vehicles being brought into Gaza Even the emergency services, Madam, again, David Adom says one of their ambulances has actually been taken into Gaza. The latest numbers on casualties we have in Israel. We do not know numbers of soldiers or police officers killed, although we have heard from the police that there are casualties. In terms of what the hospitals and the emergency services are saying, they're saying at least 22 killed, something like 545 injuries so far, and we are only in hour 6. To give you a sense of the scale, so far we know at least 2,000, likely more because that number is from about an hour ago, rockets have been fired from Gaza into Israel. In that war in 2021 that lasted 11 days, it was something like 4,300 rockets for that entire period. So we're only in hour 6 and we're already reaching that record in terms of number of rockets. But what is most alarming is these infiltrations. The Israeli military is saying some of them actually came by air, by paragliding into Israel. Some of them came by sea and by foot. There's a big question, of course. How did this happen? How was Israel so caught off guard? In the previous rounds of conflicts we've seen, there's been a clear trigger point. Maybe there was an Israeli police raid on the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, which is also known as the Temple Mount, holy to both Jews and Muslims, or a high-ranking militant official was captured in some way. There have been tensions here. There have been tensions in Jerusalem at the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, Temple Mount. There have been ongoing tensions in the West Bank we've been reporting on for more than a year and a half. There have been some protests along the border fence between Gaza and Israel, but there has been no clear trigger. And I think that's why this was such a surprise. And it was very clearly a coordinated attack. Now, Hamas has released statements calling this, they call this an operation, calling it the Al-Aqsa Storm, claiming that they fired more than 5,000 missiles. And what's also alarming is that they are calling on all Palestinians across the Palestinian territories, across the occupied West Bank, Palestinian citizens who also hold Israeli citizenship, calling on them to take up arms wherever they can. And that is what is most concerning to the Israeli security establishment, is these firefights that are happening on the ground in Israel as we speak. This is an unprecedented state of war for Israel, the likes of which they have not seen in 50 surprise attack. Israel essentially now saying that they are in a state of war, the likes of which Israel has not seen in 50 years, almost to the day to that Yom Kippur War in 1973, which also caught Israel by surprise on a holiday. Today is a holiday technically at Simchat Torah, also catching Israelis by surprise. 6:30 a.m. is when this started, a barrage of rockets coming from Gaza towards Israel, and it has not stopped since that hour. We have seen now thousands of rockets fired, including as far as where we are in Jerusalem. We've had at least 5 air raid sirens sending us into the shelters. We've heard multiple explosions in the air over Jerusalem. The same has been said for.
There was a loud boom, and that might mean that there is a siren coming. So I'm not sure if you can hear it. For me, it's quite loud. And yeah, now there's a siren. So I'm going to have to run now.
Absolutely. Stay safe.
It's okay. We can stay online. We can stay live if you want. I'm just going to a bunch of.
We're happy to stay live as long as you're happy to. And obviously just
I'm happy to.
Call off when you need to.
There was a loud boom.
נשאיר את האוטו דלוק ככה?
ניכנס פנימה, תכניס את האוטו, ניכנס פנימה.
هاي دخلونا على المطار زي ما انتم شفتوا تركنا السيارات تركنا كل شيء.
النصيحة تغادي فايش يا كل باي تعالي לאוטו, את רוצה לעלות? די. תעצור את האוטו.
נשאיר את האוטו דלוק.
As warning sirens sounded across southern and central Israel, including in Jerusalem, Israel's military said it was on a war footing. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has called an emergency meeting of security officials. And this morning's events are some of the most serious since Israel and Hamas fought a 10-day war in 2021. Sky's Middle East correspondent Alistair Bunkle has the latest.
Barrage of rockets, which, as you say, Hamas claims to have been in excess of 5,000 rockets fired out of Gaza into Israel, started almost exactly 2 hours ago, just before 7 o'clock in the morning Israel time. It meant that air raid sirens were going off around southern and central Israel. People were told to shelter indoors. There were mobile phone footage of plumes of smoke rising above some Israeli towns and cities, including Tel Aviv. The ambulance service in Israel, Magen David Adom, has reported that one person's been killed, 15 injured. I wouldn't be surprised if that figure rises further still. But I think the most worrying development, and I think almost sort of unprecedented in the way it's happened, is that some Hamas fighters have managed to get over the border from Gaza into Israel, in some cases using paragliders. Benjamin Netanyahu is speaking to his security cabinet, I think, about now. Yoav Gallant, the defense minister, has had a briefing from the Ministry of Defense. I mean, what I should, this has taken everybody by surprise. And, you know, everybody from journalists who cover it to the top levels, to the IDF command. There is nobody who really saw this coming, and it's happened over a major weekend. It is the end of the Sukkot, the Jewish festival of Sukkot, this weekend, which coincides with the Shabbat, which is today, and just coincidentally, it was also 50 years pretty much since the Yom Kippur War as well. And
as warning sirens sounded across southern and central Israel, including in Jerusalem.
Ojme, polebatajesz. Ojme. Ojme. לא רוצה.
In a significant show of force, the Israeli Air Force launched a targeted airstrike on a tower in Gaza City believed to be connected to the Palestinian militant group Hamas. The strike, which occurred in the early hours of the morning, resulted in the complete destruction of the building. This is after Hamas firing 4,000 missiles indiscriminately into Israel. Follow for more. In a significant show of force, the Israeli Air Force launched a targeted airstrike on a tower in Gaza City believed to be connected to the Palestinian militant group Hamas. The strike, which occurred in the early hours of the morning, resulted in the complete destruction of the building. This is after Hamas firing 4,000 missiles indiscriminately into
Israel is under attack. Barrages of rockets from Gazan terror groups have been fired at Israeli cities for over an hour now, causing sirens to sound as far north as Tel Aviv. The current scrimmage has been festering for several days after terrorist organizations like Islamic Jihad and Hamas sent barrages of rockets aimed at Israeli cities in what they claimed was a response to a terror leader dying during a hunger strike in Israeli prison. In response to these initial attacks from Gaza, Israel bombed several locations in Gaza, killing at least 3 high-level terrorists who have been wanted for years. In the days following, Gazan terror groups have promised a response of violence, which is currently exploding at the time of making this video. The Iron Dome missile system has intercepted many of the incoming rockets, but many Israelis are questioning the response of their own government. Can't the Israeli government's strength and technology do more to stop the threats of terror completely? The situation is active and ongoing, so follow our Telegram news channel for real-time updates and subscribe to Israel.
Breaking news. Zelensky weighs in on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Дорогі українці, українки, сьогодні від ранку на постійному зв'язку з нашими дипломатами з розвідкою через терористичний напад на Ізраїль та загрозу нашим громадянам, які перебувають в Ізраїлі. Створено оперативний штаб при МЗС України. Всі служби та наше посольство відслідковують інформацію щодо громадян України, які могли опинитись у небезпеці. Станом на зараз перевіряється інформація про можливу загибель однієї громадянки України та проводиться розшук 2 наших громадян. Як тільки будуть перевірені деталі щодо цих людей, українські дипломати повідомлять суспільству. Будь ласка, дорогі українці, якщо ви перебуваєте зараз в Ізраїлі, будьте максимально уважні, дотримуйтесь інструкцій від сил безпеки та дбайте про себе та інших поруч із вами.
Breaking news. Hamas releases a statement concerning Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Well, the Palestinian militant group Hamas, which launched the attack, has issued this statement. The Palestinian resistance is engaged in these historical moments in a heroic epic whose title is Al-Aqsa, our sanctities and our prisoners as its central and fundamental cause is the criminal Zionist aggression that took place against the blessed Al-Aqsa Mosque and reached its climax during the past days. We are confident that all of our nation, from east to west, from north to south, and everywhere, will be part of the battle to defend the Prophet's mission. May God bless him and grant him peace. We call on every Muslim everywhere and all the free people of the world to stand in this just battle in defense of Al-Aqsa and the Prophet's mission, to do everything possible. For this is not the time to wait and watch. It is not the time for victory in the heart only, but victory in action.
Breaking news. Hamas releases a statement concerning Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Well, the Palestinian militant group Hamas.
Breaking news. Israeli Prime Minister gives another statement as the U.S. Secretary of State urges the Palestinian Authority to restore calm and stability in the West Bank.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been speaking in Tel Aviv in Hebrew, but we have had something of a translation. Benjamin Netanyahu saying that Hamas has killed women, children, and elderly people, that what has happened today has never been seen in Israel. The Prime Minister saying that they will take mighty vengeance for this Black Day. Also, Mr. Netanyahu going on to say Israel will reach every place Hamas is hiding. He says, I tell Gaza's people to leave those places now. Of course, a counter-offensive already ongoing.
Allahu Akbar wa lillahi alhamd. العب يا شباب والله حتان الشباب حتان ما تخلوش ولا حاجه البوابات هذول شنوهن شيل البوابه خذ السفون اللي في الحمام والجيزر هذا بيسوي هنا ها شيل على الفيسبوك بلاش شيل الجيزر تعال الجيزر عندي خربان انا الله اكبر والله الضوء هذا كويس الله تعال راجع
قاتلوهم يعذبهم الله بأيديكم وأيديهم قاتلوهم اضربوهم في كل مكان فإنهم لا يستطيعون إلا لغة القرآن والبارود قاتلوهم
Massive rocket fire continuing from Gaza. This is clearly a coordinated operation by Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and other factions inside the Strip. But you can see here significant damage to the southern part of this country. Sirens sounding.
Breaking news! Israel.
الدنيا شريف ايش شو بخوف هاي نشوف الله اكبر الله اكبر الله
Breaking news, it's Dr. October 7th, and this is Geopolitics Today in less than 60 seconds. Israel was invaded in a surprise attack by Hamas militias from Gaza early Saturday morning, and a combined aerial, ground, and sea assault. Over 5,000 rockets have been fired into Israel, and at least 1,000 ground-based militias have infiltrated the country, the first time the conflict has reached Israeli soil since 1948. Hamas has captured Israeli soldiers, civilians, and fighting is ongoing at 22 sites across Israel. Hamas says these attacks are only the beginning, and it is possible regional allies will be involved. Israel says the country's at war. Nearly 300 people have been killed on both sides and over 2,400 injured. Breaking news, it's October 7th, and this is Geopolitics Today in less than 60 seconds.
Breaking news, Biden weighs in on Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Good afternoon. Today, the people of Israel are under attack, orchestrated by a terrorist organization, Hamas. In this moment of tragedy, I want to say to them and to the world and to terrorists everywhere, that the United States stands with Israel. We will not ever fail to have their back. We'll make sure that they have the help their citizens need and they can continue to defend themselves. You know, the world's seen appalling images. Thousands of rockets in the space of hours raining down on Israeli cities. I got up this morning and started this at 7:30, 8 o'clock, my calls. Hamas terrorists crossing in Israel, killing not only Israeli soldiers, but Israeli civilians in the street, in their homes. Innocent people murdered, wounded, entire families taken hostage by Hamas. Just days after Israel marked the holiest of days in the Jewish calendar. It's unconscionable. You know, when I spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu this morning, I told him the United States stands with the people of Israel in the face of these terrorist assaults. Israel has the right to defend itself and its people, full stop. There's never justification for terrorist attacks. And my administration's support for Israel's security is rock solid and unwavering. Let me say this as clearly as I can. This is not a moment for any party hostile to Israel to exploit these attacks to seek advantage.
Unprecedented surprise attack. Israel essentially now saying that they are in a state of war. The likes of
Des roquettes par milliers dans le ciel d'Israël. Au petit matin, l'attaque surprise du Hamas depuis la bande de Gaza. À 100 km au-delà, dans les rues de Jérusalem, les sirènes retentissent. Ses habitants courent se mettre à l'abri. En quelques minutes, les rues de la ville se vident. À Tel Aviv,
breaking news, massive panic erupts at the main international airport in Israel after an American family brought an unexploded artillery shell to the security checkpoints. They found it while traveling and wanted to keep it as a souvenir. An official immediately ordered the area to be cleared, but someone misheard and started yelling that somebody was shooting. Breaking news, massive panic erupts at the main international
armed with grenades and Kalashnikovs and other weapons going into people's homes as they rested, as children slept in their beds, and they slaughtered these people. And those that they didn't kill, they took hostage, and those that were not taken hostage became prisoners of war. It's also notable the amount of Israeli military equipment that was taken into the Gaza Strip. We've seen
Israel Prime Minister just declared war after a Palestinian nationalist group called Hamas just sent 5,000 rockets into Israel, bro. Stay with me as I give you all the key details of what just happened. So the militant group, Hamas, launched a sustained barrage of more than 5,000 rockets in a coordinated attack by land, sea, and air, and its forces crossed the Gaza border. I got retainers in. Sorry if I sound crazy. Israel got their get back fast after they declared war and instantly sent missiles into 17 different military compounds and locations connected to the Hamas in Gaza. While Israel forces were fighting to clear the militants from 22 locations inside Israel towns and villages. At least 200 people in Israel Prime
Where are you from? Israel. What's one thing Americans should know about the tension between Israel and Palestine?
Whatever it's on TV and news, it's not always correct. Of course, we're humans. Nobody is 100% imperfect. You gotta go there to see like what's actually going on.
What you're saying is people in Israel, people in Palestine, they don't really hate each other like it's portrayed.
It's more government and there is more behind that. Whatever it's on TV and news, do not take it serious, never.
Where are you from?
Israel.
Developments overnight in Israel. The militant group Hamas firing thousands of rockets into the country. Smoke and flames seen rising from multiple sites that were hit.
The death toll is rising. Israelis seen taking cover as sirens wailed across the country. Israel declaring a state of war, saying a number of Hamas militants have infiltrated the country from the Gaza Strip.
Prime Minister Netanyahu calling it a murderous surprise attack, calling up reserves and warning that Hamas will pay a heavy price for its actions. Retaliation already underway. We have team coverage beginning with our chief global affairs correspondent, Martha Raddatz. Martha, good morning.
Good morning again. This was clearly planned by Hamas for months, given the scale and scope. But what is truly shocking is that the Israelis seem to have no idea this was coming.
This morning, Israel under attack. Palestinian militant group Hamas launching a massive, unprecedented military operation. From the air, firing what they claim are more than 5,000 rockets and long-range missiles, some slamming into cities in southern Israel. Sirens wailing, with Israeli cities now on high alert. Huge, thick clouds of black smoke in the sky, residents taking cover wherever they can. Israeli rescue services saying at least 40 Israelis killed, hundreds injured. Images on social media showing dozens of heavily armed Palestinians on motorbikes and in pickup trucks infiltrating Israeli settlements near the border, shooting at passers-by. Israeli TV reporting Hamas capturing at least 35 Israelis, including soldiers, holding them hostage. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declaring to the country, "We are at war and we will win." Allahu Akbar! Hamas's spokesperson calling the coordinated attack Operation Al-Aqsa Storm, telling all Palestinians to take up arms and fight, carrying it out in revenge and in retaliation for the way they say Palestinians are treated. Normally, Israel's air defenses, the so-called Iron Dome, can shoot down incoming rockets or missiles, but the system was clearly overwhelmed. But you can expect a massive response.
Developments overnight in Israel. The militant group Hamas firing.
Look at this, the fucking rocket is still here.
For the last 12 weeks, Israel has been in absolute turmoil. It's ever since Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu built a new government, a very far-right, a religious government, and it introduced a plan to reduce the power of the Supreme Court. At the moment, there are groups of negotiators from each party that are going to the president's house to try to come up with some compromise. The problem here is that Israel has no constitution, and the Supreme Court has been acting like this. The basic laws are a form of constitution. These groups that are meeting at the president's house are going to try to come up with a way to create a kind of constitutional framework to allow the court to do some work but to also increase the power of the legislature known as the Knesset. For secularists, the people who live outside here in these broad towers and who created the wealth through tech in this country, this has been a source of enormous anxiety. They have come out to demonstrate every single week.
World News Update.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has declared that Israel is at war with Hamas, Gaza's rulers, after a surprise attack from militants. The attack led to the unalive of at least 40 people in Israel, with several Israelis being taken hostage and brought back to Gaza. In response, Israel has launched a series of airstrikes on targets in Gaza, resulting in the unalive.
Israeli cities tonight erupting in protest after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sacked his defense minister today. The country's political turmoil rapidly deepening. Netanyahu removing Yoav Gallant, a member of his own Likud party, after Gallant called for a pause in the government's controversial plan to weaken Israel's judiciary, essentially stripping its power to have final say on Israel's laws. The plan triggering weeks of massive protests, an estimated 300,000 citizens marching Saturday, many alleging the plan is a power grab that could make Israel an autocracy more like Turkey or Russia. Israeli cities tonight erupting